Hello and welcome to Biz Daily. I'm Jon Jordan. So the news we're talking about today is Discovery and Apple TV. So Apple TV launched on Friday. There's presumably hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of these new devices, the fourth generation Apple TV, and it's the first one to get a proper app store. So you get the usual kind of TV movies that you've kind of had before from iTunes, but now it has an app store, so you can download apps and games specifically for the Apple TV hardware, and it has its own OS now, TV OS, which is integrated in, or unified part of the iOS platform. So people can now make games for iPhone, for iPad, Apple TV, and kind of they can all be unified in terms of kind of your save state and all that kind of stuff. So it kind of pretty exciting. We don't quite know how successful Apple TV will be. You know, whether it will be a big game changer, whether it will just be, as it kind of Apple TV has always been for Apple, a bit of a kind of interesting sideshow. But what the kind of news is, and why it's interesting, is that there's been quite a lot of obviously developer support for Apple TV. It's a new platform from Apple. People want to get on there quickly. There's an assumption it's going to be a good platform for paid content, particularly paid games. And there's already 1,000 apps and games available on it. We don't quite know how many games per se are available, but probably a couple of hundred, we're kind of guessing. But it seems like unless one of your games or apps is being featured by Apple on the Apple TV kind of storefront, you're not getting any downloads, or you're not getting any or paid sales, more specifically. And that's a problem. We've kind of been here before with Apple. So when the Apple Watch launched, there was quite vociferous complaints, but from a small number of developers, saying that unless they were getting featured by Apple on the store for the Apple Watch, they were literally getting no downloads at all. It was just like a desert. In a sense, that situation wasn't quite so important because there were less apps for the Apple Watch. Apple Watch hasn't, from a gaming point of view, been a success. Not that Apple said it would particularly be a strong platform for gaming, but at the moment we're not seeing a massive take up. There's not a lot of developers really going to support Apple Watch from the gaming side. So that kind of rumbling complaint hasn't really kind of got any bigger, hasn't really become a large issue. But the Apple TV one potentially could get quite big. So normally you find with developers, particularly game developers, they're all quite kind of Apple fanboys, if we can call them that. You know, they're quite supportive of Apple. They prefer supporting iOS to Android, which they find a bit difficult. They think Apple kind of treats creators more seriously, perhaps more fairly, and generally they make probably a bit more money through Apple than Android, unless they're doing a lot of kind of stuff in Asia. But what we're kind of we're hearing exactly the same thing as happened with Apple Watch. With Apple TV, there's a specific storefront for it. Only has a certain amount of slots for featuring. If your game's featured on there, you're probably doing okay. But if you're not on there, there's just no discovery at all. So there is a search option. So there's a software keyboard you can bring up and search with the remote. That's quite difficult to do, and obviously you have to know kind of the title you're searching for, which is quite difficult. So now this could just be the system's just launched and Apple quite haven't kind of sorted out that side of operations yet. One kind of argument for that is that there's a Siri voice search option on the remote control for Apple TV, and that works for movies and TV. It doesn't work for games. So that seems to suggest there's no technical reason why that couldn't be the case. It's just they maybe haven't indexed. The games have just a lot of content's just gone kind of live on the Apple TV store. They haven't indexed it for Siri yet. That will come, and that would be the intuitive way. You've got this remote control that has a voice-activated search. You would search for games by speaking into it. So if that came along, I think a lot of people's problems would be solved. Obviously, featuring, as ever in any app store, is always the most important way, or the best way of generating downloads or sales. So we'll have to see a little bit whether this kind of rumbling, which is not now just from a few developers. There's quite a lot who are kind of just saying, I've spent time supporting this new Apple platform and nothing. I've literally made no money at all. So that's a complete waste of time. And that's the kind of thing that after a while, and say a few of these studios have supported Apple Watch, not got anything out of it, and now still went in to support Apple TV, and are feeling like they've not they're not in an ecosystem that supports them. And in a sense, the other problem for Apple even, there's only so many featuring slots. There's some big companies putting their weight behind Apple TV. So the most obvious one at the moment is Ubisoft. So Ubisoft has released Rayman Adventures, which is only exclusively available for Apple TV. So it's coming to iPhone and iPad and presumably other mobile platforms, but not till December. So the only place you can play Rayman Adventures is Apple TV. Obviously, it's got one of the big feature slots. And there are some other big companies who are supporting Apple TV. They've got the feature slots, and equally, unlike the App Store, the normal App Stores, there's no kind of top grossing or kind of like most downloaded. There's not been much curation really going on of content beyond just here's a game in a feature slot. So again, potentially, I see no reason why kind of more interesting curation of content won't happen in future. It's probably just a new platform thing, but it's just a little bit surprising, because normally, as I say, most developers are very, very reticent about complaining about Apple, and there's a few who have kind of gone on record and not happy at the moment. Hopefully that will all change. I guess the kind of wider problem, or the wider kind of interesting thing with Apple TV will be, as happened with Apple Watch, will Apple actually say how many units are out there? Will it actually be a viable kind of ecosystem just to support that device, or will it kind of end up being a little bit of an oddity where some games kind of work on it, but effectively it just becomes another platform that you make your game for: iPhone, iPad, Apple TV, and maybe a companion app for the Apple Watch, but iPhone is really what drives the revenue, and that's kind of what we're seeing at the moment. Apple's putting out more platforms, but iPad, even as a gaming platform, is decreasing in importance, and iPhone is driving the majority of revenue, whether you're doing paid games or free-to-play games. So we'll wait and see what happens on that one. We'll keep our nose to the ground. Come back tomorrow, see what the news on Biz Daily is. Subscribe to our YouTube channels, lots of interesting things going on all the time, and see you tomorrow. Come back then.